When Hollywood censors saw women getting too close on screen, they reached for their scissors, ready to discover which beloved classics nearly vanished for daring to show female affection. From coded glances to bold declarations, these 15 films walked a dangerous line between art and obscurity during the era when even a lingering touch could mean career suicide for everyone involved. Number 1. The Children's Hour, 1961. The Children's Hour wasn't just controversial, it was revolutionary, daring to center its entire plot around the accusation of a romantic relationship between two women. Audrey Hepburn and Shirley MacLaine star as two teachers whose lives are destroyed when a troublemaking student spreads a rumor that they're lovers. Based on Lillian Hellman's groundbreaking play, this film faced intense scrutiny from censors who nearly blocked its release entirely. The film explores the destructive power of lies and societal prejudice against sapphic relationships in 1930s New England, making it a compelling and unforgettable drama with subtle queer undertones. What makes it truly remarkable is that director William Wyler had attempted to film this story once before in 1936 as These Three, but had to completely remove all queer content due to production code restrictions. The Children's Hour marked one of the first mainstream Hollywood productions to directly address same-sex attraction between women, though it still had to tread carefully. Censors demanded multiple script revisions and nearly shut down production entirely. MacLaine later revealed that neither she nor Hepburn fully understood the depths of their characters' feelings, as the topic was so taboo that even the director avoided explicit discussions about it on set. Despite its controversial subject matter, the film earned 5 Academy Award nominations and is now considered a landmark in queer cinema history, proving that sometimes the most powerful stories are the ones society tries hardest to silence. Number 2. Queen Christina, 1933. Queen Christina starred the incomparable Greta Garbo as Sweden's gender-bending 17th-century monarch in a performance so bold it nearly got the film banned in multiple countries. Garbo's Christina dresses as a man, kisses women on the lips, and declares she'll die a bachelor, all while exuding an undeniable sensuality that had censors clutching their pearls. The film's most controversial aspect wasn't just its historical accuracy about Christina's romantic interests, but Garbo's insistence on playing the queen with masculine authority and feminine allure simultaneously. Studio executives panicked when they saw early footage, demanding cuts to scenes where Christina shares intimate moments with her lady-in-waiting, played by Elizabeth Young. These scenes were ultimately trimmed but not entirely removed, a testament to Garbo's star power. What few viewers knew was that Garbo herself had negotiated for John Gilbert to be her male love interest, creating a fascinating dynamic since their off-screen romance had ended years earlier. Meanwhile, Garbo's own private life fueled whispers about her closeness with writer Mercedes D'Acosta and other women in Hollywood. Queen Christina became a coded beacon for queer audiences who recognized its subtext. The film's famous final shot, showing Christina's face in stoic, mask-like contemplation, became an iconic image of queer isolation and inner strength. Despite censorship attempts, the film grossed over $2.5 million and cemented Garbo's status as Hollywood's most mysterious and magnetic star. Number 3. Rebecca, 1940. Rebecca, Alfred Hitchcock's only Oscar-winning Best Picture, captivated audiences with its gothic atmosphere and unforgettable characters, especially Mrs. Danvers, one of cinema's earliest coded lesbian characters. As played by Judith Anderson, the housekeeper's obsession with the deceased Rebecca goes far beyond professional loyalty, bordering on romantic devotion that made censors extremely nervous. Mrs. Danvers' fixation on Rebecca is palpably intense throughout the film. Due to the Hays Code, her sexuality had to remain implied rather than openly acknowledged, but Hitchcock's masterful direction makes her feelings unmistakable. The scene where Danvers lovingly shows the second Mrs. De Winter Rebecca's preserved bedroom, caressing her nightgown and brushing her hairbrush against her face, was nearly cut entirely. Behind the scenes, Hitchcock fought repeatedly with producer David O. Selznick over how explicit to make Danvers' attraction. Selznick worried the film would be banned outright if they pushed too far, while Hitchcock argued the character's psychological complexity demanded these moments. Their compromise resulted in one of cinema's most unsettling and complex portrayals of obsessive love. Film historian Vito Russo later identified Rebecca as a pivotal moment in queer cinema, noting that Anderson's performance created a template for how to convey same-sex attraction under restrictive censorship. Contemporary critics praised the unwholesome devotion of Mrs. Danvers without directly acknowledging its romantic undertones, exactly the kind of doublespeak that allowed such characters to exist at all during Hollywood's most repressive era. Number 4. Rope, 1948. Rope wasn't just Hitchcock's bold experiment in continuous takes. It was Hollywood's most daring attempt to portray a gay relationship on screen while dodging censors. Based on the infamous Leopold and Loeb murder case, the film focuses on two young men who commit murder and then host a dinner party with the body hidden in their apartment, with their relationship unmistakably coded as romantic. John Dahl and Farley Granger play Brandon and Philip, whose intimate dynamic caused multiple censorship battles. Hitchcock deliberately staged their apartment as a shared domestic space with one bedroom and filled their dialogue with double entendres that somehow slipped past the Hays office. The film's original script contained even more explicit references that were gradually watered down during production. What makes Rope extraordinary is how it uses its technical innovation, filming in 10-minute continuous takes, to create unbearable tension that mirrors the characters' repressed desires. Hitchcock later admitted this was intentional, saying, "The restrictions of the characters matched the restrictions of the filmmaking." James Stewart, playing their former teacher, reportedly didn't fully grasp the subtext until midway through filming. Critics at the time wrote carefully around the film's true subject matter, with the New York Times calling it tense and tricky, while avoiding any mention of the characters' relationship. Bosley Crowther cryptically noted the unnatural attachment between the killers without elaborating further. Rope was banned outright in several cities and heavily edited in others, only to be fully restored decades later when audiences could finally appreciate Hitchcock's masterful handling of what was, in 1948, the most taboo subject in Hollywood. Number 5. Suddenly Last Summer, 1959. Suddenly Last Summer was so shocking for its time that Tennessee Williams himself wondered how it made it to screen without being completely gutted by censors. This gothic nightmare stars Elizabeth Taylor as a young woman whose wealthy aunt wants her lobotomized to prevent her from revealing the truth about her gay cousin's death. The film tells a dark and twisted story about a wealthy widow determined to have her niece lobotomized to hide the truth about her secretly gay and now deceased son. The film is intense, unsettling, and full of sharp dialogue that keeps viewers hooked from start to finish. Director Joseph L. Mankiewicz and screenwriter Gore Vidal performed an astonishing balancing act, making the character's orientation clear to viewers while never explicitly stating it, allowing the film to pass censorship. Katharine Hepburn and Elizabeth Taylor both give powerhouse performances, earning Best Actress Oscar nominations for their roles, which adds to the film's prestige. Hepburn's portrayal of the manipulative Violet Venable is particularly chilling, as she'd do anything to preserve her son's reputation, including destroying another young woman's mind. The Production Code Administration initially rejected the screenplay outright, leading to months of negotiations. The compromise involved removing direct references to the character's orientation while keeping the plot intact. The final revelation scene, where Taylor's character describes how her cousin used her to attract young men he was interested in, pushed boundaries so far that several theaters refused to show the film despite its star power. With its gothic atmosphere, shocking twists, and daring themes for the era, this movie remains a striking example of Hollywood pushing the boundaries of the Hays Code. Number 6. All About Eve, 1950. All About Eve isn't just a masterpiece of backstage drama. It's cinema's most glorious celebration of female relationships wrapped in deliciously sharp dialogue that somehow slipped past the censors. Bette Davis and Anne Baxter, headline this story of an aging actress and the ambitious fan who schemes to take her place, creating a world where men seem almost incidental to the women's intense connections. All About Eve from 1950 is a sharp, witty drama about an aging actress whose new admirer slowly schemes to take her place. The film made history by tying the record for the most Oscar nominations ever with 14 nods, and it even features a young Marilyn Monroe in one of her earliest roles. Beyond the glittering performances, the movie is packed with subtle queer undertones and fascinating characters, adding an extra layer of intrigue. The character of Eve Harrington studies and mimics Margot Channing with an intensity that goes beyond mere admiration, while theater critic Addison DeWitt displays what writer Vito Russo called gay-tinged misogyny that was recognizable to insiders but flew under the radar for mainstream audiences. Director Joseph L. Mankiewicz deliberately cast the openly lesbian actress Thelma Ritter as Margot's maid Birdie, adding another layer of subtext for viewers in the know. Meanwhile, Bette Davis later revealed that she played Margot with the understanding that the character had romantic feelings for her assistant Birdie that she couldn't express. Its clever dialogue, biting humor, and intricate relationships make it a timeless classic that's both entertaining and endlessly watchable. The film's reputation has only grown among queer audiences who recognize its depiction of a world where women's connections with each other, whether competitive, supportive, or romantic, form the emotional center of their lives. Number 7. Mädchen in Uniform, 1931. Mädchen in Uniform wasn't just controversial, it was revolutionary, featuring cinema's first explicit lesbian romance in a German boarding school drama, so powerful it was banned twice and nearly destroyed by the Nazis. This groundbreaking film depicts the romantic relationship between a sensitive student and her compassionate teacher with remarkable empathy and surprising directness for 1931. Director Leontine Sagan's all-female production tells the story of 14-year-old Manuela, who develops intense feelings for her teacher Fräulein von Bernberg in a repressive Prussian boarding school. The film features an actual kiss between them, something unthinkable in Hollywood cinema for decades to come. Eleanor Roosevelt personally intervened to ensure the film could be shown in the United States, though heavily censored versions removed all romantic elements. When the Nazis came to power, they ordered all copies destroyed, but a single print survived in Rome, allowing this landmark to be rediscovered decades later. What's remarkable is how compassionately the film treats its central relationship, presenting it as a natural response to the school's emotional deprivation rather than something scandalous or perverted, a perspective decades ahead of its time. Film historian B. Ruby Rich called it the first film to create a positive lesbian aesthetic, noting its influence on generations of filmmakers. Its visual style, with emphasis on meaningful glances, physical proximity, and emotional tension, established a cinematic language for depicting same-sex attraction that directors still draw upon today. The film ends with a suicide attempt that's prevented by the collective action of the girls, a revolutionary rejection of tragic queer narratives that wouldn't become common until the 21st century. Number 8. Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, 1953. Gentlemen Prefer Blondes might be remembered for Marilyn Monroe's pink dress and diamonds, but the real sparkle is the film's audacious portrayal of female friendship that's so intimate it had censors scrambling to tone it down. Monroe and Jane Russell's characters share a bond so close they sleep in the same bed, prioritize each other over men, and even perform the film's most suggestive musical number together rather than with male leads. Director Howard Hawks deliberately played with the chemistry between his two female stars, creating scenes of physical intimacy, shoulder rubs, linked arms, shared dressing rooms that went far beyond typical female friendships in 1950s cinema. The original script contained even more suggestive dialogue that was cut before filming, including a line where Russell's character tells a suitor, "I've been sharing a cabin with Dorothy for 3 years. You're not offering anything new." The infamous Diamonds Are a Girl's Best Friend number was originally conceived as a duet, but censors insisted it be performed solo to avoid showing the women in matching revealing costumes. Instead, Hawks gave Russell her own equally suggestive Ain't There Anyone Here for Love. Number where she performs surrounded by nearly naked male Olympic athletes, an unprecedented gender reversal that somehow made it past the censors. Film scholar Maria Sanfilippo notes that the characters' relationship follows the classic romantic comedy structure. They face obstacles, grow closer through adversity, and ultimately choose each other over their male suitors. The final scene shows them happily sailing off together, with their fiancés almost an afterthought, a subversively happy ending that celebrates female bonds over traditional marriage without ever explicitly challenging social norms. Number 9. Victim, 1961. Victim wasn't just groundbreaking, it was dangerous to make, featuring the first use of the word homosexual in English-language cinema, and starring Dirk Bogarde as a married lawyer being blackmailed for his attraction to men. While primarily focused on male relationships, the film includes a revolutionary portrayal of a lesbian couple that nearly caused it to be banned worldwide. The pioneering film became the first British movie to openly confront same-sex relationships, marking a significant moment in cinematic history. With its gripping storyline, emotional intensity, and bold social commentary, Victim remains essential viewing for anyone interested in film history and queer representation. The film's secondary plot involves two women who are also being blackmailed. Instead of portraying them as predatory or disturbed, the standard treatment of lesbian characters at the time, director Basil Dearden presents them as the most stable and sympathetic relationship in the film. When one character asks if they're that way too, the response is simply yes, very happy. A revolutionary moment of normalization. Bogarde risked his entire career taking this role, as he was a major heartthrob who many suspected was hiding his own sexuality. British censors demanded 29 cuts before approving the film, mostly targeting scenes with the female couple. American distributors initially refused to touch it, and it was banned outright in several countries. The film's release coincided with Britain's Wolfenden Committee discussions about decriminalizing homosexuality, and historians credit it with humanizing the issue for mainstream audiences. When legislation finally passed in 1967, MP Leo Abbe specifically mentioned the film's impact on changing public opinion. Victim stands as proof that even a few minutes of honest representation can help change the world. Number 10. Tea and Sympathy, 1956. Tea and Sympathy wasn't just controversial, it was revolutionary, daring to sympathetically portray a young man persecuted for being insufficiently masculine in an era when gender nonconformity was considered a dangerous perversion. Deborah Kerr stars as the headmaster's wife, who befriends and ultimately proves the manhood of a sensitive student, tormented for his perceived femininity. Tea and Sympathy tells the story of a sensitive prep school boy who faces relentless bullying from both classmates and teachers. He finds solace in a nurturing relationship with an older woman, played by Deborah Kerr, who provides him with compassion and guidance. Though the film's central relationship is heterosexual, censors nearly blocked its release because of its sympathetic treatment of a character accused of being gay. Director Vincente Minnelli, himself the subject of whispers about his sexuality, fought to maintain the integrity of Robert Anderson's groundbreaking play while making necessary concessions to the production code. The original ending was completely rewritten to include a moralizing voiceover condemning Kerr's character for her sin of compassion, a compromise that allowed the film to be released but undermined its message. John Kerr played the student with remarkable sensitivity for the era, later revealing that Minnelli had directed him to play it like a girl in certain scenes, a daring choice that created a truly queer-coded character at the height of the Lavender Scare. The film's most famous line, "Years from now when you talk about this and you will be kind," became a watchword for compassionate treatment of difference at a time when difference could destroy lives. The film's cinematography is exquisite, capturing every subtle emotion, and its tender storytelling makes it a deeply moving exploration of empathy, acceptance, and personal courage. Number 11. Advise and Consent, 1962. Advise and Consent wasn't just a political drama, it was a bombshell, featuring Hollywood's first gay bar scene and a landmark portrayal of a closeted politician driven to suicide by blackmail. Otto Preminger's unflinching examination of Washington power games centers around the confirmation hearings for a Secretary of State nominee, but its most controversial subplot involves a senator hiding a same-sex relationship in his past. Advise and Consent is a gripping political drama adapted from the Pulitzer Prize-winning novel. The story revolves around the confirmation of a nominee for Secretary of State who faces scandal and blackmail due to his secret past relationship with a man. This film boldly explores power, politics, and hidden desires, making it a fascinating look at both government intrigue and the discrete queer subplots of its era. The film's most shocking sequence follows Senator Brigham Anderson, Don Murray, into an underground gay bar in New York City, complete with male couples dancing together and flamboyant patrons, imagery that had never appeared in a major Hollywood film before. Preminger shot this scene with documentary-like realism, refusing to exoticize or condemn the environment despite enormous pressure from studio executives. What makes the film particularly bold is that Anderson is portrayed sympathetically throughout, a dedicated public servant and family man destroyed not by his sexuality, but by society's persecution of it. When he takes his own life, the film clearly positions this as a tragedy resulting from intolerance, not moral failing, a radical perspective for 1962. The Senate chaplain reportedly tried to block filming in the actual Senate chamber after reading the script, forcing Preminger to build an exact replica. Despite, or because of, its controversial subject matter, the film was a substantial box office success, demonstrating that American audiences were ready for more nuanced portrayals of LGBTQ+ individuals than Hollywood had previously dared to provide. Number 12. The Haunting, 1963. The Haunting wasn't just scary, it was revolutionary, featuring one of classic Hollywood's few explicitly lesbian characters in a supernatural thriller so psychologically intense, it still tops horror lists today. Robert Wise's adaptation of Shirley Jackson's novel centers on a group investigating a haunted mansion, including Theo, a stylish, confident woman whose attraction to the vulnerable Eleanor drives much of the psychological tension. The Haunting is a groundbreaking horror film notable for featuring one of the rare queer female characters of its era, feminine, layered, and not depicted as predatory. Adapted from Shirley Jackson's novel, The Haunting of Hill House, the movie skillfully mixes suspense, psychological terror, and subtle LGBTQ+ representation in a way that was ahead of its time. Claire Bloom plays Theo with sophisticated charm, wearing fashionable pants and boldly flirting with Julie Harris's Eleanor. When another character asks about the boyfriend or husband or whatever it is you're running away from, Theo simply smiles mysteriously. Later, she telepathically connects with Eleanor, creating an intimacy that transcends physical boundaries, a clever way to portray same-sex attraction while avoiding censorship. Director Robert Wise later revealed that he deliberately cast the openly bisexual Bloom and instructed her to play Theo as attracted to Eleanor. The studio demanded cuts to several scenes, including one where Theo comforts a frightened Eleanor in bed, but Wise insisted these moments were essential to the psychological dynamics that drive The Haunting itself. If you've loved the book or the Netflix adaptation, this classic is essential viewing for both horror enthusiasts and fans of queer cinema. While modern viewers might find the representation subtle, audience members in 1963 recognized Theo as groundbreaking, a lesbian character who wasn't villainous, mentally ill, or doomed to a tragic end, but rather glamorous, perceptive, and ultimately heroic. Number 13. The Killing of Sister George, 1968. The Killing of Sister George wasn't just controversial, it was seismic, featuring the first explicit intimate scene between women in a mainstream American release and receiving cinema's first ever X rating specifically for lesbian content. Robert Aldrich's adaptation of Frank Marcus's play stars Beryl Reid as June, an aging actress who plays a beloved nurse on a soap opera while her personal life unravels. The film's unprecedented explicitness nearly prevented its release entirely. The Production Code Administration demanded extensive cuts, particularly to scenes between June's younger girlfriend Childie, Susanna York, and predatory television executive Mrs. Croft, Coral Brown. When Aldrich refused, the film became a battleground in the war over screen censorship, ultimately receiving the X rating that limited its distribution but preserved its integrity. What made Sister George truly revolutionary was its complex characterization. June is neither saintly victim nor one-dimensional predator, but a fully realized person, sometimes cruel, sometimes tender, facing both workplace discrimination and relationship problems with Childy. Critic Pauline Kael, though uncomfortable with the film's explicitness, acknowledged it featured the first convincing homosexuals in American movies. Behind the scenes, life imitated art in surprising ways. Coral Brown and Susanna York reportedly had significant tensions on set, similar to their characters' power struggles. Meanwhile, Reed threw herself so completely into the role that she experienced a nervous breakdown after filming completed. Despite its controversial reception, Sister George grossed over $4 million on a $1.5 million budget, proving there was a significant audience for adult films dealing honestly with lesbian relationships. Number 14. Pandora's Box, 1929. Pandora's Box wasn't just scandalous, it was revolutionary, featuring cinema's first lesbian character and the iconic Louise Brooks as Lulu, a sexually liberated woman who attracts both men and women before meeting a tragic end. G.W. Pabst's silent masterpiece includes the groundbreaking character of Countess Augusta Geschwitz, who sacrifices everything for her unrequited love for Lulu. Alice Roberts plays the Countess with such intensity that censors in multiple countries demanded her scenes be cut entirely. In the most famous sequence, she requests a dance with Lulu's male date as a pretense to swap and dance with Lulu herself, a moment of coded desire so obvious that several American theaters stopped projection mid-scene. The film was banned outright in numerous cities and heavily edited elsewhere. Behind the scenes, director Pabst had to convince a reluctant Roberts to play the role, as she feared being typecast or having her own reputation damaged. Brooks later wrote that Roberts required the promise of an expensive gift from Pabst before she would agree to the scene where she had to look at me with longing eyes. Despite these hesitations, their on-screen chemistry is unmistakable. Decades ahead of its time, Pandora's Box presents the Countess as the most honorable character in the story. She alone remains loyal to Lulu until the end, even sacrificing her own safety. This sympathetic portrayal of lesbian devotion in 1929 is particularly remarkable, considering that many films made decades later would still portray queer characters as villains or tragic figures. Today, film scholars consider the Countess Geschwitz one of cinema's most important early LGBTQ+ characters, paving the way for more complex representations. Number 15. Olivia, 1951. Olivia wasn't just daring, it was revolutionary, presenting a French girls' boarding school where romantic relationships between women are portrayed with remarkable sensitivity and nuance rather than sensation or judgment. Director Jacqueline Audrey, one of the few working female directors of the era, adapted Dorothy Bussey's semi-autobiographical novel into a tender coming-of-age story centered on passionate attachments between students and teachers. The film follows a young English girl who develops intense feelings for Mademoiselle Julie, one of the school's two headmistresses, while observing the complex romantic dynamics among the female staff and students. What made Olivia truly groundbreaking was its refusal to sensationalize these relationships or frame them as deviant. Instead, they're presented as a natural part of the character's emotional development in a women-centered environment. American and British censors demanded significant cuts before allowing limited release, removing scenes where students declare their love for teachers and moments of physical affection. In France, however, the film was celebrated for its psychological depth and visual beauty, with critics praising Audrey's feminine sensibility without directly acknowledging the lesbian content, a typical critical doublespeak of the era. Edwige Feuillère and Simone Simon play the rival headmistresses with a complexity rarely afforded queer female characters, creating a nuanced portrayal of different approaches to love between women. Their performances offer neither condemnation nor exploitation, but rather a sincere exploration of emotional and romantic attachment that mainstream cinema wouldn't match for decades. Today, Olivia is celebrated as a landmark of queer cinema that somehow slipped past censors by presenting female desire with such authenticity that even censors couldn't fully recognize what they were seeing. From whispered subtext to bold declarations, these 15 films dared to represent women loving women when such portrayals could end careers and invite censorship. Which of these classics shocked you the most? Were they banned for genuine concerns, or simply for showing human connections that challenge the status quo? Drop your thoughts below and tell us which forgotten queer classic deserves a modern restoration and reassessment. Remember, yesterday's banned film is often tomorrow's recognized masterpiece.